Good morning, students. Today we are going to take a new chapter. Take your text page number 39, chapter number 6, The Night the Elves Came. Look at the pictures and identify the professions. Here are 3 pictures given below. Can you identify the professions by seeing the pictures? Okay, students, please try to do it yourself. Okay, let's start the chapter. Once upon a time there lived a shoemaker. He lived in a cottage at the end of a village. His shoes were not well made, and so nobody bought them. Do you know who is a shoemaker? Yes, the shoemaker makes beautiful shoes for us. Okay, in this story, the shoemaker lives in a small cottage at the end of a village, and his shoes were not so good, and nobody was ready to buy shoes from him. He don't know how to make beautiful shoes, so nobody was ready to buy any shoes from him. He became very poor, and his wife was unhappy. As nobody was ready to buy any shoes from him, he was not having any money, so his wife was not at all happy. I now have only enough leather left to make one pair of shoes. I will leave the leather pieces on the table and complete it the next day. Okay, on one day he was thinking he has only little leather to make only one pair of shoes. Why, he was not having so much money to buy a lot of leather to make more pairs of shoes, and he thought he will make the shoes next day. And what he did, he left the leather pieces on the table and he went to sleep. Next morning the shoemaker went down to his table. He couldn't believe his eyes. There is a fine pair of shoes on the table. How is this even possible? This is a wonderful surprise indeed. What happened the next morning? When he went to his table to make shoes, he saw beautiful pair of shoes on his table. He was very surprised. He was thinking, how did this happen? The shoes were so beautiful and well made that a rich man who was passing by saw them and paid double the usual price for it. And he sold out that beautiful pair of shoes to a rich man, and he was paid double the money as usual. The shoemaker was very happy. I have bought enough leather to make 2 pairs of shoes. I have cut it now and I will stitch the shoes tomorrow. He felt very tired and went to bed. Next morning he came down rubbing his sleepy eyes and yawning. He couldn't believe his eyes. What happened? The shoemaker was very happy. Why? He got more money when he sold that beautiful shoes. And what did he do then? He bought enough leather to make 2 pairs of shoes. And what did he do? He cut the leather into pieces and he kept it on the table and did the same as the last day. He was very tired and he went to sleep. And next morning he came to the table and he was not able to believe his eyes. Okay, let us see what happened. The magic has happened again. There are 2 fine pairs of shoes on the table. Tell me honestly, have you been working at night when I was sleeping? No, I have no idea how these pairs of shoes were made. What happened? The same magic happened on the next day too. What was that? There were two beautiful pairs of shoes on the table. The shoemaker asked his wife if she had made that shoes when he was sleeping, but his wife told that she doesn't know how to make this beautiful pair of shoes, and it was not her. These pairs of shoes were sold quickly. The shoemaker and his wife were very happy now. This happened night after night. Soon the shoemaker was quite rich and happy. What happened then? They sold those beautiful pairs of shoes very quickly, and they got more money. And this happened every night. Every night he will cut the leather into pieces and he will leave the leather on the table, and next day when he come to the table he will see beautiful shoes there. And soon the shoemaker became very rich and he was very happy. One night the shoemaker and his wife hid behind the curtains to find out who was making the shoes. Around midnight, two little elves came creeping in quietly. The little elves worked hard at all night, stitching, hammering, and making the shoes. As the dawn came, they flew out of the window, singing merrily. What happened? One night, the shoemaker and his wife thought of finding what they are always confused. They were always confused who made the shoes. And one night they planned to hid behind the curtains. For what? To find out who was making the shoes for them. And when they hid behind the curtains at midnight, what did they see? Two little elves. Two little elves came in quietly. They came slowly into the table. And what did they do? The little elves made the beautiful shoes. They worked hard all the night. And when it was the early morning, they flew out of the window happily. Now we know who has been stitching the shoes for us. Have you noticed that they are wearing tattered clothes and are shivering in the cold? And now they understood who was making beautiful shoes for them. His wife asked the shoemaker that, have you noticed that they are wearing tattered clothes? What they are wearing? They are wearing old and torn clothes and they are shivering in the cold. I want to thank them for all they had done for us and will make little shoes for them. Yes, we should. I will make little clothes for them. And what did they plan to do? They planned to thank the elves for making beautiful shoes for them. How did they thank them? They planned to make little shoes and little clothes that fits the elves. They set to work and made two neat pairs of clothes and shoes for the elves. The wife folded the clothes neatly and left them on the table. And they made beautiful shoes and clothes for them. Two pairs of clothes and shoes for the elves. And the shoemaker's wife folded the clothes very neatly and left the shoes and clothes on the table. That night the elves came creeping silently into the room. But there was no leather on the table, but a pile of clothing and little shoes, just the right size for them. And at the midnight, when the elves came silently into the table to make beautiful shoes, what did they see? They didn't find leather on the table. What else did they see? They saw beautiful clothes and shoes, just the right size for them. The elves were overjoyed. They wore their clothes and danced and sang on the table in delight. The elves were very happy. What did they do? They wore the clothes and shoes, and they sang and danced on the table with so much happiness. The elves flew out of the window never to be seen again. As for the shoemaker and his wife, they had learned to make fine pairs of shoes and could now live in comfort. They lived happily ever after. What did the elves do? They wore the clothes and shoes that were made by the shoemaker and his wife for them. They wore that and flew out of the window. They went out of the window and they never came back. As for the shoemaker and his wife, they had learned to make fine pairs of shoes, and by now, shoemaker and his wife had learned to make beautiful pairs of shoes like the elves. How did they learn? They watched the elves making the shoes. From where? From behind the curtain. And now the shoemaker and his wife know how to make fine pairs of shoes. And now they are living happily. Okay, students, I hope you can understand the lesson. Please try to read it yourself. That's all for your class today. Thank you.